Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hmong Now. Again, it's Linda. Today I have with us Ashley Yang, and I am super excited. I'm always excited, but I'm always excited because we always have great people. So I have Ashley here with us today. Before we go any further, I want to make it clear that I am actually having a conversation with Ashley, who is right now in Korea. So she's in Korea right now. It's like 9 a.m. for her. So she woke up really early just to have this conversation with all of us. And so I'm really excited to have Ashley here. So Ashley, I want to welcome you. Hello.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for including me in on this. I know we've had a few miscommunications since I've been.
Absolutely honored to have you here. As usual, if you guys watch the live interviews that I do here, as usual, we always have questions that we ask our guests, and then following that, we would answer any questions that you probably have for our guests. So I'm going to start off by introducing Ashley. I am going to read her bio because she has a lot of information that I feel like we need to know. And so I'm going to read her bio for us, which is going to be a little bit lengthy, but I promise you it will be worth your time. So Ashley is only 19, and so that's also been something that is really exciting about this because she is the youngest guest I've ever had. So Ashley is 19. She was born in Fresno, but raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Ashley is a college senior at Augsburg University. She is studying international relations in Spanish. Ashley's commitment to her community and education is strongly reflected in her work of giving back. She graduated from Minneapolis Community and Technical College with her Associates of Arts in Liberal Arts 2 weeks before walking her high school commencement. So that is amazing. She graduated in May 2016 from high school. She is a recipient of the Gates Millennium Scholarship. So other than her education, she's really active in her community. She has served on the City of Minneapolis Workforce Youth Council. She's spoken at many community events, as well as she supports her church as a worship leader. She hopes to bring forth insight on international issues regarding youth, economics, and the cultural differences to bridge a better understanding between the Hmong, U.S., Anglo-Americans, and persons of color inside and outside of the U.S. borders to allow informational conversations. Her knowledge comes from traditional research and reading with a combination in hands-on experience, having lived in Mexico for a year and South Korea. Ashley is also the founder and director of the Yang and Yang Scholarships for Students campaign and the co-founder. Now this part I'm probably going to have Ashley say because I'm probably going to say incorrectly. So Ashley, you are the co-founder of a language school in Mexico. Can you tell us the name of that school?
It's called El Centro Cultural de Enseñanza de Idiomas, which means the Cultural Teaching Center of Languages.
Wow, that was very impressive. Besides her education, besides what she does in the community, just a little bit about herself. During her free time, she enjoys walking. She loves exploring new places. She loves to sing. She plays, I believe, pool, right? Pool?
Yeah.
Billiards, and she loves to write. So, in fact, she is currently working on her first book. Okay, so I encourage you guys to get to know more about Ashley from this interview or even outside of this interview. If you guys have any questions for her, I am going to provide a link for her LinkedIn, so you guys can probably communicate with her through that as well. But aside from the gigantic bio I just read, I'm going to give Ashley an opportunity to tell us more about herself so that we feel, we see her as a person and not just someone who is, in the workforce or, just an education representative, but more of a human being. So Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Linda. I greatly appreciate that, especially the idea of pointing me out more as a human than a statistic or someone in the education and the workforce area. I think a lot of times when people talk to me, they get intimidated and they forget that, hey, I'm 19 and I do a lot of things 19-year-olds do. I like to go out to coffee and sit and talk or travel the world. And I think sometimes a lot of people forget, I guess based on my maturity, I often get back a response. But as a person, wow, I've been to Mexico, and I was part of a little city called Cuernavaca. It's about 2 hours west of Mexico City, the main big capital. And if you go to Cuernavaca and you ask, do you know Ashley Yang and they're going to be the one from the United States? And that you're going to be yes, and they would be like, yes, we know Ashley, particularly because I was an 18-year-old in Cuernavaca. I was talking to students. I also taught at a private school. It's not a language school, it's a private school. So when you told me you teach middle schools, I was so excited because I also taught middle school English.
Oh, awesome.
They are just the best group. So, I mean, I guess that's a little bit about me. Whenever I have free time, I like to play billiards. I mean, work is important, but I think health is also an essentiality.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, thank you for sharing that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to learn more about Ashley's education. Okay, so earlier I read her bio, and we talked a little bit about her graduating, I believe 2 weeks before she graduated 2 weeks from college before she even graduated with her high school degree. And I find that really impressive. It's amazing. So then I'm going to ask you, share with us that experience. Share us with that experience. What enabled you to make such an accomplishment?
So I was part of the Minnesota Post-Secondary Education Enrollment Options called PSCO, and I absolutely loved it. Although it was a very scary situation when I first decided I wanted to go to college full time, and I was 15. Well, I was 15, and I talked to my counselor, and she said, no, absolutely not. And I had to convince her that this little 15-year-old girl could handle college at full time.
Yeah.
So eventually I was able to do my job, persuading, and I went my first day, and I was terrified, just absolutely terrified. I mean, there was no attendance taking. All they did was go through the syllabus the first day, and I was looking through this, and exams are long. I mean, when I first got my first quiz in my pre-calculus class, I expected it to be like 2 questions. That's what a quiz is in high school, and it was 4 pages. Yeah. And I thought to myself, this is a quiz? What's the midterm? And came around, the midterm was about 10 pages, and I was in the same amount of time, and there was no notes. And so it was a very terrifying experience. But I think the thing that I love most about myself is I have so much ego in a way to myself that I would hate to give up on. So I would hate to go home and to go back to high school and say, oh, I should have stuck through college, because I'm going to have to do that anyway. So my first full year came around, and I was a junior in high school and a freshman in college, essentially, and I absolutely loved it. There wasn't a big obstacle that came around my 3rd semester in. My father passed. He passed on Halloween, and it was so difficult. And I guess for any person, regardless if they were in college or not. I mean, the passing of any parent is always a big situation. But I dropped out of one class. I nearly failed the other one, my calculus course, and I always remember telling myself, you need to get through this. So I went from 16 credits down to 12 credits. Yeah. And then my final semester that I needed to graduate, I needed to be at 18. And I have never taken anything that extreme. Wow. But that was in order to graduate, and I'm actually very, very surprised that I was able to finish with honors. And, wow. I spoke at both commencement. So my high school commencement came along, and all my classmates are so excited, and I spoke there. And I remember people shouting, who are you? What are you doing here? Because I've been gone for so long. So that's kind of the gist of it. I mean, I guess the moral of the story is to persevere on, to be persistent. Persistent, I guess. Yeah. That way you don't start falling.
That's very impressive. You're talking about calculus, and I'm thinking to myself, you're taking math in college. You're also taking math in high school, right? And so were you?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. How did that work? How did it work for you?
So I took all of my courses in college. I wasn't even in high school at all.
Oh,
so
okay.
Calculus in college essentially is a calculus level 3 in high school. And I had skipped way too many of my courses. And I was actually surprised to be able to get the credit for calculus. I still think to this day how that happened.
Okay.
But it was along that line where I wasn't at high school at all.
So is that something that your school just offered? Because I know that you grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So is that something that your high school offered? Or is it something that is available and that we just don't know about it?
It's a state program. It's a state program. And I think the state of California has one of their own. I don't think it's necessarily called the same thing, but I've had friends who have done something similar. I can definitely ask them what the program name is, so I can send it to you. But they don't market it as much. They market it to more high school seniors and a little bit of juniors. I did my homework. So when I went to my counselor, she was absolutely like, wow, why did you do your homework? Because if I didn't pass high school, it was on her. She was my advisor and my high school counselor. So it's really more of doing your homework. If you are able to convince someone to sign off on the papers, you can graduate with your AA in no time.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, like I never knew that. So that's really great. You know, I hope that those, because there are a lot of kids who are probably freshmen in high school who I'm pretty sure would love to be able to walk in the, footsteps that you did. And so it's really good for you to share this, and I'm hoping that they will catch on, and if they want to do it, like you said, because a lot of times it could happen that way where counselors say, no, don't do it, And so I'm glad that you pushed through, even though, The next question I have for you is, were your parents a huge part in your success early on in education?
They were indirectly. So my mother knew about my love for school. Rather, she knew about my ambition. She knew that I was a very ambitious person. I hate settling for what I think I'm not worth. So she would always make sure that I get my meal. And she would always make sure I have my own time to do my own work. Oftentimes that, coming from a family of 4 girls and 1 boy, we were very always fighting over the TV. We wanted to do things together. And I would always tell my siblings, I love you, but not now. Do you see I'm working right now?
Yeah.
And my father was actually, one of the big drivers of my success. It's kind of funny, but he wasn't very supportive. If you watch my commencement speech, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
He wasn't the individual that I would pertain to particularly love you. He favored, and so my older sister, who I look like, apparently people say, because I was born after her, who I look like, was his favorite daughter. So he always put me down, and I don't blame him. I mean, parents are human beings. You can't expect them to love us each and all exactly to the number the same, but he was my big driver, and I wanted to prove him wrong, and I wanted to prove myself that I was something else, and that's where I am today. Yeah,
I mean, you're amazing. You're amazing. I hope your dad's able to see that now, right? I'm glad you share that, because I kind of thought that, because a lot of the time our youth who are at this time who are able to walk in different paths than the typical young students are able to. I thought that my idea was that maybe your parents provided you the resource, right? And said that, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And so now that you shared, I kind of understand that you pretty much just took the initiative yourself. Is that right?
Yes. My mother was so confused when I did my whole college application. She said, you're not going out of state, right? And I was like, Mother, I really want to go out of state. I got this huge scholarship. I want to go out of state. And she said, no. And then I went out of country.
So then when you went to college in high school, did you go out of the state for that? Or was it college inside?
It was, that was my actual college. So post-secondary, after I graduated with my AA, I transferred into Augsburg College. But during that moment, I really wanted to go elsewhere.
Okay. So then let me just ask, did you get to experience the high school at all, like education in high school at all? Like, were you out hanging out with your friends, or were you just away in college the entire time?
I was away in college the entire time. I mean, I've never been to high school. What's it called? See, I don't even know the name of it. Homecoming. I haven't even been to homecoming. I did go to prom once, though, with my girlfriend, Dorothy. She really needed a person. She's like, please. But I never went much to my high school prom.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how long were you in high school before you actually transferred into college?
2 years. I finished my sophomore year. I got my papers done that summer, and I transferred in. So as my first day of junior high school, I was in college. So I started at 15.
Did you ever struggle with your self-identity? Because, you were so young and here you are in college. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I did. And I think like any person, any human being, any teenager, you struggle with your identity a lot. It's a big question of, is this what I really want? Is this what I'm really looking for? Because I was a straight A 4.0 student in high school. Yeah. And in college, I got my first B and my first C. I was so mind blown and asking myself, is this what I wanted? Because I wanted, my first day of freshman. I promised myself. It's so funny because me and my good friend Joshua, who I met in high school, we made a bet to each other that if he wasn't valedictorian, I was valedictorian. Like one of us had to be valedictorian. And on graduation day, he was valedictorian, and it was such a moment for us because we waited 4 years to do this, but to be told that you're not a straight A student anymore was a lot to swallow.
Yeah. But I think it's great though that, you said you encountered, you thought to yourself, is this what I want? Is this what I want to do? A lot of the time youth or teenagers of this age, and when they face that, they typically give up. And so the fact that you were able to move forward, despite the challenges, that's amazing. It tells a lot about your character, that you're a really strong character. And I can see why you are where you're at now. That's amazing. I mean, again, you're 19, you've traveled all over, and that's so cool. The next question I have for you is, what were your greatest challenges?
In which aspect are you talking about? As a
young teenager who is supposed to be in high school, but who made that leap and went into college. So what was your greatest challenge?
That's a big question. I counted a lot. I think my greatest challenge was sitting in a classroom where there was no other 16-year-old students.
You're right.
And I think going at a technical college, you get people who could be your grandparents, and they're not there because they need a degree. They're there because they're retired and they're bored and they want to take classes. And to be in an environment where you can't talk with someone else who understands where you're coming from, it can be a little lonely. And I think that's good to know for any person going into a new stage in their life. It's good to know that you will encounter loneliness. Excuse me. Trying to study for my mother, I can't be home until 10 o'clock. It is right around the same time, because I worked mostly in the morning and the afternoon. Also, I did a part-time internship year-round. So I was juggling between work, full-time school, and trying to keep a personal life with my parents because they still didn't get the full idea that I was going to college. So they still expected me to be home. Yeah. Like any other high school student. And I have class until 10 at night. And can you come pick me up? It was a struggle sometimes.
Wow, you started the struggle really early compared to all of us. Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, my question for you is, what advice do you have for anyone who is now in the shoe you've been, where, because I'm thinking of my sister. I have an older sister who's in her doctor's program, and she said she gets nervous because she's in there and that she has other classmates who are already people who have already received their doctorates and they're sitting in the room. And so she's really intimidated by them, and so she doesn't interact as much. And so I know you mentioned about being in that room and you have these people that are not your same age. And so it can be a little bit intimidating. So being the person that you are now, if you can look back and tell yourself or the young teenagers who were your age at that time, what would you tell them?
Be confident. There's a very big difference between confidence and egoful. People who have confidence learn from their mistakes. And if you're confident in that you have something to tell, I love it when students tell me they want to go into the graduate program. When my peers as a college senior, people talking about that they want to go to graduate school, but they don't know if they're ready yet. It's really just a matter of confidence. If you have confidence and you can display that to people will respect you. But if you're a person who is very, I wouldn't say quiet, because quiet is good. Sometimes I need to be more quiet and listen. But if you're a person who reflects off the negative energy, it can be very difficult to make friends and to be successful in what you want to do. So have confidence and something I think is very important is that once you find that passion of what you really like doing, you found your purpose.
Right.
And you know that's not going to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it falls in for anything, really.
Thank you for that. I really, really like that. That is so true. And our students, and even myself, we need to hear that. You're right. Being confident, there's a difference between confidence and being, egotistic. So that's really good. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to move on into something else that you've mentioned in your bio, and that is that you were a recipient, I believe, or you still are a recipient of the Gates Millennium Scholarship. Will you explain to us a little bit about what that scholarship is?
Sure. So the Gates Millennium Scholarship has been around for about 21 years now, hence.
Okay.
We were the last cohort. We were the 20th cohort. And they do have a new program coming up. I don't recall what it is, but it is still a full ride. But it's basically a full ride scholarship to any U.S. accredited school.
Okay.
So if I go to Puerto Rico, that's so weird to talk in an English accent for that. I usually got Puerto Rico. If I were to go to Puerto Rico, that's still U.S. territory accredited school. Same thing goes for Guam. But it basically allows me to study anywhere in any field I want, up until my doctor's degree if I'm anywhere in STEM. So if I want, they don't cover MBAs, unfortunately, or political science. But that's basically the gist of it. So if I want to study engineering into my master's or PhD, they give a portion to support you. It's no longer a full ride, but a big number.
Okay. What are some of the qualifications for that?
Oh, that was such a long application. It still dreads me to this day. It was 8 essays. 9 essays if you went in high school.
Oh my goodness.
They were 1,000 words each. You had to fill out so many forms, and you had to get 2 recommendations. And it wasn't like write me a letter and I'll submit it. It was more I'll send you this link and you just answer anything they have.
Yeah.
And one of my professors had showed me the link that when I had requested him to do it, I actually had to do it twice because he did the wrong one, so he had to do it twice, actually just the day before. And it's expensive. You have to find someone who's really going to invest in you because you're essentially asking professors to write long essays.
Wow.
We wrote 3 actually.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Wow. So can you tell us a little bit about those essays? What are the essays about? Is it more like a self-introductory thing? Is it about your passion? Or what is it about? What were they focused on? That is 8 essays. That's insane.
So one of them was to talk about your strengths and weaknesses. The other one was really to talk about your kind of what helped you get along. It was more of a moral written essay of like why do you deserve it out of most people, etc. over your kind of academics. So the academics did play a big factor when I went to the Gates conference. They held this, 2 huge conferences afterwards, and it was scary to meet people people on your level. I mean, it was so inspiring, but it was so scary. A very good friend of mine, he interns at NASA, and I'm here trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, and he's interning at NASA. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like interns, you gotta slow down for the rest of us. I think a very funny story I would like to share with you is that I also applied for the Act 6 scholarship. And for those watching, the Act 6 scholarship is a full ride to 4 universities in Minnesota. Augsburg is one of them, Bethel, North Central, and I don't recall the other one. But it's a full ride. And it's great. And I really wanted it because I didn't know if I was going to get Gates. Like, who would ever think you would get such a prestigious scholarship? I mean, I'm not helping myself at all. But it's funny because 4 of my friends, including me, we were finalists for Augsburg's Act 6 competition. But we all didn't get it. We were so devastated because we were like, oh no, what's going to happen? And then like a month later, we're recipients of the Gates scholarships.
It all worked out.
So
That's
cool.
awesome.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
So we always joke about not getting Act 6, but
So these friends that you were talking about, are they your friends from high school or your friends from college?
We met at the finalist event.
Okay.
So we just kind of like kept chatting from there, kind of like what we're trying to do after not getting that scholarship, to kind of like bounce off each other's ideas.
Yeah.
So we're not like just kind of in our own world. And then I heard that like 3 of them got there. I was actually the last one who discovered I got back 6 because I was I was in class. Oh my goodness, it was so bad. I was in class and I called my mom and I was like, Mom, is there an envelope at home that is for me? Is it big or is it small? Like trying to figure out if I was a recipient or not. So that's kind of the story behind that.
Okay. My next question is, what helped you discover these scholarships? Did you just, you did your homework again, or who offered these scholarships to you, the idea of these scholarships?
I did my homework. I wasn't I'm pretty sure there are resources out there in Minnesota. We have what we call college CIS, college career centers, CCCs. I don't even remember that anymore. I never really used it, particularly because I was away, but I was, I just did my homework. Although Gates particularly, Gates goes back a long way, back to my 6th grade. There were these 2 students that walked in that were talking about scholarships, and Gates was one of them that they were talking about. I'm sure they were recipients. And I remember telling myself in the 6th grade, I want that scholarship. So to be a recipient of it meant a lot. I mean, it meant that I was going to the college for free, that I accomplished what I wanted years ago.
Okay. So now we're going to go a little bit detail into your education, more like your college level education. I know you're attending Augsburg University right now. What is your area of focus? So in other words, your major, what are you majoring in?
I'm majoring in international relations with a minor in Spanish.
Mm-hmm. And what do you hope to accomplish with this?
Yeah.
What do you hope to accomplish with it, with the knowledge that you're receiving? What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, I really want to go to graduate school. Harvard has this master's in international education policy that I really want to do. And it's also a master's of education, MHD. So Gates would pay for half of it. And I'm really trying to just finesse my way of things. Otherwise than that, I mean, I guess career goal-wise, I really want to continue Yang and Yang, the scholarship campaign I'm running for the first year, and kind of see where that goes. And really just, I don't really know what I want to do right now. I mean, I know I want to be a career politician, but not to the extent of politics. I feel like there's so much corruption up there, and you're tied in so many ways that it doesn't make you, people don't view you as a person anymore.
You're right.
An asset.
Well, if you do eventually end up there, I look forward to one day working with you, because we need that,
Oh, thank you.
Like there is a lot of corruption, so I have hope, if we eventually get there, I have hope. So I look forward to that.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about where you are at right now and why you are there.
In college-wise right now, I could graduate next year, but I probably don't. Well, this year, 2018. So I essentially just started my scholarship with Gates last year. So Gates pays up to 5-year undergrad. So I'm thinking about just doing another year next year, just kind of traveling around, picking in 1 or 2 countries. I decided into the graduate program I'm applying to. It's called Public Policy and International Affairs, CCEI. It's a joint program between UC Berkeley, Princeton, not Michigan, and the University of Minnesota. So if I get into that, I'll graduate next spring 2019. If I don't, I might just spend another year traveling. I mean, why not?
Yeah, that's fascinating. What's the experience like right now? Because I know I kind of see some of your posts on Facebook, and you talk about how, like, you don't understand the language. How frustrating is that? So how are you doing with that?
It's hard. I mean, in Mexico, at least I look like a foreigner, so people could be like, oh, well, my first 2 or 3 months, like if they spoke to me and I was like, I don't really know Spanish, because I went to Mexico with no Spanish. I didn't know anything. I was at the airport and I was just, in tears. Like, the thing I knew how to say was, hi, my name is Ashley, and where's that? I'm Nicholas. But here in Korea, I'm talking, I'm trying to find my way around, and I look like a Korean, apparently, and some people, I have people try to ask me for directions. I'm asking you for directions. I don't live here.
Yeah.
Or trying to have a conversation with me. It's so hard sometimes. And you would think, she came to Korea thinking, okay, in the United States, we can tell who looks a little bit, we can kind of guess, like, oh, you look like you're from China, you look like you're from Japan. Here, if you're Asian, you're Korean. Period.
Wow. Oh, that's a nice experience. That's cool. Wow.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move into your, I know your, I can't think right now, but we're going to move into some of the things that you've done in the community. So we're going to move a little bit away from your education. We're going to talk about how you mentioned you served on the City of Minneapolis Workforce Youth Council, and you participated in numerous community events as a spokesperson. So if you can please share your experience with us in both the areas.
Sure. So the Minneapolis Workforce Youth Council Board, something I absolutely love, and I still keep in touch with my peers there. But it's essentially a council of a mix of lots of people. You have, people from the Minneapolis district, school district. You have people from private companies, from the state. Our chair was the founder, CEO, and president of his own social media company. Super, super intelligent guy, Tyler Olson. And then people from the city, the government. And so actually, I went in as a volunteer, I got connected to the Workforce Youth Council based off my internship, but during the hours I was there, it was not part of my work. But it was basically the council that advised the Minneapolis Workforce Council. So we're just a subgroup of that, and then within our group we have more groups. So we have the Children's Fund, we have the Youth Employment and Development Group. And it was more of, making and thinking of new programs and fundings, because we did fund, it was, I guess I shouldn't say we, because I'm not part of it anymore, but the council gave fundings to programs for youth development, whether that's Parks and Recreation Board, or whether that was, radio stations broadcasting about youth programs, etc. So it was really a council focusing on Minneapolis youth. And we've had a couple partnerships with the city of St. Paul, the capital, a couple times to, not make it I guess you should say, to not make it a Minneapolis focused area, but to make it a metro city area. So
Okay.
that's really what it is.
Okay.
I thought on that for about a year and a half or so.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your public speaking experience? Because I know you said you spoke at a lot of events. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so I guess really like you, I've had people reach out saying, wow, you're quite an inspiring story. And I'm really like, I'm just human like you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I spoke at the Hmong Spelling Bee. I think it was the 7th anniversary. Mm-hmm. And to speak in Hmong Green and Hmong White was difficult because my parents are Hmong Zhuang.
Uh-huh.
So to be told, like, hey, can you speak in Hmong Green and Hmong White as a mix? It's kind of like, oh, sure, you can do that. And I think part of what they really want to do is not have students learn just one or the other dialect. It was more like learn both of the dialects. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of put in that situation. It was really good. It was an experience. I mean, I was kind of just put on stage.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it still. I was the MC for the Step Up Youth Employment End of the Year celebration this past August. It's perfect. I paid for that, and then 2 or 3 days later I flew out here. But it was very inspiring, just to be able to talk and encourage people my age. And people younger than me that they should always come back to our employment program during the summer so that they don't get caught up in things that would be too hard to kind of later.
Yeah, it's a good thing that they selected you, because I think you are probably one of the most powerful persons who can probably influence the youth, because you are much younger than we are, and so you are much younger, but you are so knowledgeable, and so I think it's a great thing to have you, because then a lot of the youth can be inspired by you, because you are right around their age, so that's great, and so that's awesome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So I'm going to read something off of your bio again. It's a little bit about what you hope to accomplish. And so I'm going to read a little bit about it, and hopefully you can elaborate for us what it means to you, what it means to us. Okay. So you said that you hope to bring forth insight on international issues regarding youth, economics, and cultural differences to bridge a better understanding between the Hmong, U.S. Anglo-Americans, and persons of color inside and outside of U.S. borders to allow informational conversations. So if you can tell us, what does that mean to you, and what can it mean to us?
So that means, to me, really just serving as a messenger to build a gap between whatever questions we may have. So when I was in Mexico, something that really stuck hard to me, and it still does to this day, is that I would see students or persons of wealth, because I have a fair group of friends in both some very wealthy people for the college I went to, the Mexican college I went to, and some very lower end people based on my friend group. But I guess the point of that is that you see people who are in the same situation but don't think they're in the same situation.
Okay.
So I have, I grew up my family and I, we grew up very poor. So I remember just being so excited to go to school, primary school. I actually hated school then. I didn't do my homework. But because I knew I was going to have lunch, even though I knew it wasn't like the best lunch, like I knew I would get to eat lunch.
Okay.
It goes back to students here. I would see students walking around. In Mexico, they have two different class sessions. So they have one from like 8 to 2, and they have another one from like 2 to like 7-ish, where students, oftentimes students go in the afternoon because they either stay up all night trying to help their parents, work at the taco stand or sell things, or because in the morning they're helping their parents run the shop until their parents get back from their day job to do that, to make ends meet. So it's really more of, we hear troubles in situations about, education rights over, like, in the Middle East. We hear about women's rights in the Middle East. We hear about racism even here in Asia, and exporting in Latin America, and issues. And I really want, as a world traveler, as a global citizen, I really want to help bridge that, because essentially we're all humans. We all have our own opinions, and these problems, these issues are the same thing. It's because of corruption. It's because of not having enough economic stability. And as a person who educated, as an educator, and as a person who is still being educated in the education system, it's very hurtful, to be a part of a generation where I wish I could do more. Yeah.
I know you mentioned that you're still trying to discover kind of like what you want to do, what you even want to become. But with that hope in mind, what you are already thinking, what plans do you have to accomplish this, to create that bridge? What plans do you have?
I really want to work in diplomacy. I do want some years in that. To be an ambassador or not. I mean, I guess that really falls back on the president's administration. So, I guess I really want to, with Yang and Yang. So the idea of I guess it goes back to Yang and Yang. So I'm going to bridge off a little bit here. But Yang and Yang is a scholarship campaign I started off based in Mexico. So I'm giving scholarship out of my own capital to help students go to school in their university. So, you see scholarships saying, come to our university. You see scholarships saying, you need to come to the UK or come to the United States. But I really want to just say, here's money. You go do it in your university.
Yeah. Okay.
So that you have that resource. Because, third world developing countries, that's very difficult to find scholarships because nobody's giving them. Even though, Mexico's the 14th most richest economy. They have like, you know, very, very rich people, but it's unfortunate that people aren't investing enough in the next generation. So I want to expand it eventually to, you know, to Thailand, to Saudi Arabia, you know, to just all of these like third world developing countries, to make it, the idea is education without borders, so international investment, so that there's the, you know, the concept that, hey, I'm in a first world country, but I'm still investing in your education because I think you're a person. I think you deserve the right to any education as any other person. And you know, I'm experiencing the impact and how strong it is of a scholarship, and I really just wanted to share that. So that's what I want to do, essentially, like long term, is to make it a world organization and not have it just based in Mexico, but have it go to like Ecuador, Chile, Argentina, and really give like a new insight to education. Like, it doesn't have to be in your own country.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, wow. I'm glad you share that, because I wanted to eventually get there, and I'm glad you share that, because that is so amazing. That it's just so amazing. Because again, I'm gonna keep saying this, but it's true. You know, you are so young, but you have such a, you know, a great passion. You know, you're so driven, and you inspired, you know, me so much. I think you have the ability to inspire so many of our youth, so many of the Hmong women, so many of the Hmong men, even parents. Because, you know, you mentioned about wanting to travel, but your mom's like, no, you know. And I think you've accomplished so much. You've learned so much, and I'm so fascinated that you were able to start the scholarship, and you wanted to expand that, you know, worldwide, and especially in third world countries. So I think that's just fascinating. So can you just tell me a little bit about how you started that scholarship? So what made that possible for you?
Oh, that's kind of a funny and long story. I'll make it short. So I came back from Mexico, and I was sitting at my internship at US Bank Corporate as an operations and internal development intern, working on like bridging cultural differences and helping like, you know, people get along with each other, making sure that we don't, you know, make issues. But basically on my first day, my supervisor is like, I don't really know what to do with you. Great guy, I love him, he's amazing. But I sat there and I had this new notebook, and I encourage everyone to get a notebook, a small size, you know, something that can fit in your purse. Yeah. Because when you have an idea and you write it down, you're more likely to come back and look at it later or to do it. And it's always good. So now I always carry a notebook wherever I go. I always carry one. Because that was essentially the birth of Yin and Yang. You know, I was writing and I was like, I have this great idea. But it came Mexico. So I had US dollars and have a US passport. And that weighs a lot. So US dollar, you know, $1 is the equivalent of 2 hours of work, minimum wage in Mexico.
Wow.
And so, you know, on a full day work, on minimum wage, one person makes $4.50 roughly.
Wow.
And I spent, I hate myself for this every time I think back to the start, but I spent about around like $1,500, partly because I traveled, and partly because I you know, ate at more expensive cuisines, etc. And I did a lot more shopping for, you know, families. But I guess the concept that fell back to me and say that, wow, I spent a lot of money on things that I didn't really need. And I guess one of the things I'm going to talk about here, I know we're running short on time, but is alcohol. Alcohol is a big part of the Mexican culture, and I definitely had my fair share of it. If you go look through my Facebook page, and it's something I want to tell, you know, the Hmong people and anybody, that if you're going to do something, you have to accept it. So if you're going to do drugs, if you're going to, you know, drink, if you're going to party, or if you're going to study your life away, you have to be able to accept it if you want to move on. Yeah. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking. I don't think there's drugs, depending on what it is that's a whole other thing. We're not even going to touch that. But the idea, you know, the Hmong culture drinks a lot too. But there's this shame on Hmong women when we drink.
Right.
And I think of it more of like, if you accept it, and if you know you can live with it, and if you know that, and if you think you don't have an issue with drinking can be an issue, you know, alcoholism is real, then do not ever yourself down. And investors But I find it, more as a social way of gathering with people my age.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm so far ahead in my mentality that I can't talk with, a normal person who's 21 years old.
Yeah.
I just can't. Sometimes I just can't. And, maybe sometimes alcohol will will help you do a little flipping trick. But it's really just more of like helping yourself assimilate into the culture of the society. So I noticed I spent a lot of money on alcohol. And I was discovering that I was really having an issue, coming back to the States and not being able to drink. So for for most of the summer, I was like, I'm not drinking, and I'm going to put forth that money into something more beneficial. And that was development of human being. I said I was done with alcohol. I do have a beer here and there, but I don't binge drink anymore, and I don't get drunk, even though I don't think I've ever gotten drunk. I haven't had that, but it's what makes us humans, and I think it's really important for Hmong women to understand that you don't shame yourself. Oh, yeah. I don't know how to say that any better. Don't shame yourself. I mean, if your husband can do it, or if your boyfriend can do it, why not? We're not asking for a lot. We're just asking for quality. And I get people who are like, "Oh, you're such a feminist. Oh, you're so pro woman." No, you're pro woman. I'm a woman. You're pro man to not be pro woman. I mean, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. But you want to be prideful of the decisions you make. So I guess that falls back on making good decisions. So if you made a good decision, and if you you're making a good decision, be persistent about it and accept it. So that's the yang and yin, and I'm hoping I can continue it, for many more years. And I really, really, really hope I can expand it. I'm going to Thailand in November. I'm booked my flight, and I'm really hoping to get to know people there, so I can expand.
Yeah,
it's like a vacation, but business.
Do you have anything where we can actually help you out? Because you mentioned about how the money that we have here and money over here, whatever we have here would what's the word for it? It would can't find a word. But for us, it's like, so for example, here it's like $10 for me, right? For them, it would be like 100. Is that what it is?
The exchange currency rate, yes.
Thank you. See, I don't know the word for that, right? And so, how can we help? How can we help your scholarship?
I mean, really, at this point, it's not. I call it a campaign because I haven't made it an actual nonprofit, and I'm in the process of doing that. It's kind of difficult right now because I'm overseas. When I get back in December, I'm going back to Mexico for this, for the spring semester. So I'm going to be on again. But I'm in the process of making it into an actual nonprofit organization. And I guess what I'm really asking is, I mean, if you want to put forth money, great. But I understand, I know it's not a lot of money. And just because we're in the first world developing country, we always have a lot of money. That was something I struggled a lot with, in the United States. And I mean, in Mexico, was because I had a U.S. passport, everybody thought I was a very rich woman. And because I didn't pay for school, people thought, my parents paid for it. And it was really, no, it was my hard work. I mean, my mother was not having time to work towards my education. But really just help spread the word. I really want, I'm what's from the Hmong community, the Filipino community, the Latin community, the Latino community. And it was more of like, why are you doing this in Mexico? And I guess really just having the conversations of, it's not stopping in Mexico. It's where it's starting, but it's not the end. And it's a little like touchy right now in terms of like officializing everything. Because if I officialize it in the United States, I have to officialize it in Mexico, and if I officialize it in Mexico, that falls back on like stuff in the States. So it's a very fragile area to walk in, and I don't know if I'm the first to do it yet on that, but I guess to really just have the conversation. And have the community support in it would be very, very helpful.
This is exciting. I definitely, I really look forward to, when it expands. I really look forward to when we reach those other places in the world. I really look forward to that because that's amazing because that opens up a lot of opportunities, especially in the place that you mentioned for women. So I look forward to that. That's going to be very exciting. You mentioned you are also the founder of the You said it's not a I can't say, but you already know what I'm going to say, right? You are the founder of a school, or co-founder of a school. So tell us a little bit about that school. What is it about?
So el Centro Cultural de Enseñanza de Idiomas, CCEI, we call it. So I'll just refer to CCEI. Is a language. It's a language school. We teach English, German, French, Italian, Spanish. And we have our own groups of teachers, and we take pride in that our teachers are native speakers. So when I was there, I taught English. My two great dear friends, and I'm more of like the support. They're more of like who actually sick out. But I was, I met one of them. We both taught at the private school that I was, volunteering at, and he said he has this good idea. He's, talking with a friend. What do you think about like giving me thoughts? And I was like, do it. And then, things just kind of started blending together. It wasn't anything formal until we got into the idea of making it real. And it was kind of scary, and it was exciting because, I get to see something build up from, and have that experience to see something be lifted up from a fact. Really helped me go through with yin and yang. I mean, I've had my best moments with that thought.
So I'm going to ask you to explain to everyone what made it possible for you to bring this school to life. I'm going to allow you to explain to everyone, and I'm going to step away from the screen a little bit because my food is burning. So I'll be back.
Oh no! Yes, don't worry about it.
So you can just keep on telling us.
Sure thing. So, I guess going back to CCEI, it is very, it's such a loving school. When I left Mexico, I cried, essentially. I really did cry because it was home for me. CCEI gave me, other than teaching English at the private school, Loyola, the school that I taught at, CCEI told me I had a reason to stay in Cuernavaca. They told me, Cuernavaca was the city I was in, but CCEI told me that I had a reason to be there, that I have family to be there, and that everything was real. When I met, it's funny because my business partner, his name's Soliman. I like to think of myself more as a supporter more than a co-founder. But he and his friends basically run the school, and they're such amazing, humble people, and it just fills me how hard they're so persistent. And I guess going off of my business, their inspiration has really taught me to be persistent in yang and yang, and regardless of the feedback, just kind of like keep going. Don't let that be an obstacle.
Okay, I didn't hear it, but I'm pretty sure it was amazing.
Same thing.
Let's see. I'm gonna try and. I know you mentioned that you guys taught German, French, Spanish, and Italian. Do you play a role in any of these, or you just teach English?
Just English. It's German, French, English, Spanish, and Italian. Our most top group right now is English, particularly because English is taught in the primary schools there. But we've had a couple people in French and German.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna move away from all of this, and now we're gonna move back into knowing about you as a person. So I know you mentioned about that you love nature, you love music, you love writing, and that you are in the process of writing your first book. So I'm really interested in hearing about that. So can you tell us a little bit about this book? What is the message in this book that you have?
I'm not going to give a lot, particularly because I don't know if I'm going to change it yet or not. But the idea behind this book is it's really about a young girl, a young woman, and her best friend. And so she discovers that her abusive father and her dead mother are actually her adopted parents, and she's from Mexico. So she goes on this journey, and her father tries to rape her, and she leaves with her best friend. She takes her best friend with her, and they go to Mexico looking for her real family. Come to find out that her real parents were cartel drug lords. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. The moral of the story is where she and her best friend, and I haven't decided on the ages and stuff, but it's where she and her best friend, they get caught in a situation. They discover this, and then they don't want to leave. I mean, they want to leave, but they can't. They get caught in all of these issues. And my hope of that is to really bring out the situation in Mexico. You know, the cartel situation, whether it's the drug situation, the education situation. And she, for the first time, leaves her, you know, her little town in Texas, and she discovers a whole new world. She discovers that, you know, what they perceive as like a beautiful world isn't the perfect place. And so that's kind of what I want to do with it. I can't wait to travel all over, you know, in the world to get more inspirations.
Yeah.
And, really just do more things with it. I haven't really decided how I want to go about it, but that's kind of the gist of it.
Wow. That's really amazing. I'm going to keep saying that, but it's true. That is so amazing. That is amazing. You know, because I was like, wow, that's such a intense story. And then when you started saying that, because that's what's happening in Mexico. So to me, it's like, wow, you know, there's a purpose to everything that you are doing. And this is fascinating. What process are you in right now in your book? Or have you started, or have you written like a certain portion already, or where are you at right now?
I've written certain parts. I'm not going to specify where exactly I am, because I feel like there's going to be this pressure like, oh, she's halfway through, or she's almost done, like she can't wait to read it. And I'm going, no. The writing of books take a long process, and I've been working on this for 2 years now.
Wow.
Almost, yeah. So that's kind of the base of it. I think one of the big things I want to go, you know, round back up to. I know we have 2 minutes left on the clock, but yeah, you know, going back on what you said, that it's happening in Mexico, and the thing is, it is. Not to go against the Mexican government. I mean, I really can't. I'm not a Mexican citizen, but it's hard to watch, you know, when you're in a country and you can't help try to make a difference in that country, especially when you feel part of that country. I feel like, you know, Hmong parents feel that it's essentially, they feel it too hard when they're in the United States, not because they want to, but because they're forced to, but they can't vote and they can't participate in political you know, decisions, etc. Because they're, you know, they don't have a piece of paper saying, hey, I'm a citizen of this country. And I think it falls back on, you know, first generation Hmong children, or even children who have overseas parents, and you're a permanent resident but you're not a citizen. There's that like, loss of hope, like, oh, do I really belong in this country? But, you know, in Mexico, there's a lot of corruption with the government. They actually made 145, I think the number's 45, don't correct me, don't quote me, I'm done, it's too early. But they made a large number of students disappear in 2012. It's this huge scandal, and the president, you know, Benjamin literally said, get over it. And you still have, you know, to this day, you still have protests every year about families trying to find their loved ones, people trying to find where, you know, where these bodies are. And it's a huge corrupt cover-up.
Wow, oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I look forward to reading your book so I can learn more about it, you know.
I'm nervous.
It sounds great. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What are some challenges you face as you're writing this book and you're editing it? Because I know 2 years, you're working on it for 2 years. That's very long. And I mean, the fact that you're still writing, that's amazing. Because, you know, sometimes we face, what do they call it? I think the writer's block. You know, when we reach this thing where we're stuck and we just give up entirely. And so you've been going on for 2 years, so that's great. And so what's some of the challenges you faced?
I think my biggest challenge right now is sticking with one idea. I mean, I want to do so much, and it makes it hard to finish the book. But it also makes it hard to start from the book. And one of the biggest things I struggle with is that this is a very, for me, it's something I'm very passionate about, something that's happening right now. And so sometimes when I'm writing, I find myself crying because it feels so real.
Wow.
And it's not that, like, I mean, it's just, you want, like, you know, like, okay, I need to get through this part, but you just can't. And it takes
Yeah.
time. And it really does reflect on the author, the writer. And so it's a matter, I mean, I guess the idea of switch, because I'm not in Mexico right now, it would be a lot easier if I'm in Mexico, because I'm, in the situation. But having been in Korea, it's difficult, to switch between my Korean life, my business life, and my writing life. So trying to get back into this like Mexican setting can be very difficult.
Yeah.
Half around the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have another question before we kind of just move on to see if we have any questions from our viewers. The next question I have is, what are some resources, what are some strategies, what are some things that you've discovered that have been extremely helpful for your entire journey? And yeah.
I think one of the biggest ones is research skills. If you can hound down on research skills and discipline yourself to read for a long time on the internet, if you can discipline yourself to really want to research, then you'll find so many doors. And something I hate about the government is that governments in general, it's like they'll, on paper they'll do these like great programs and we're going to help fund students to do this, we're going to help students like do that. But they don't market well. And that's because the controversy behind it is that, okay, we have this on paper. We're using the taxpayers' money for this, but we really don't want students to apply because that means So really just do your research, know what you're looking for, and know what you want as a person, as a student, as a mother, as a father. If you're a mother and you say you want the best for your children, okay, you want the best for your children. What part of that best is it that you actually want? I
feel like you're talking to me. I feel like you were.
Are you a mother?
Thank you. I am. I'm a mother of 2 boys.
Oh,
thank you. I'm just joking.
Like so young.
Go ahead. I was just joking.
But yes, going on to that, my 2 youngest siblings, Nancy and Kevin. Nancy's 16, Kevin's 14 this February. I consider them like my kids. I'm very like, I do this more. If they come down in my room, because I sleep in the basement, I slept in the basement. I don't live anymore. They have 15 seconds to get my attention, or they have to go up and they have to come back down and tell me what they want. Really, like it's the idea to be concise and to be fast, because that's what the business world is now. I mean, if you're going to write me a 5-page essay to tell me what you want, no way, I'm not going to do that. So now they know what they need from me. Every time Nancy calls me when I'm overseas, I know she wants something. It's like, what do you want me to order this time? But it falls back on the idea of just being persistent and know what you want. Because once you know what you want, like I said, once you find that passion, then you found your purpose.
Okay. Let's see. So, okay, I'm just checking to see if we have any specific questions for you, but a lot of them, they're praising you, they're inspired by you, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to one of the most essential questions that I always ask the guests, and it's always going to be about what it means to you to be a Hmong woman, and what advice do you have for our youth and for other women out there?
I love that question so much because I ask myself every New Year when it comes around and we have to put on Hmong clothes, like what it means to be Hmong. And for me right now, I'm in my stage of life, and I feel like it will change later as I grow older and I have new experiences. But being a Hmong woman means I get to break barriers, and I love breaking things. I mean, if you get to know me more, I guess on a personal level, like I can tend to have a temper sometimes. But it's really just more like having the ability to break barriers, to be the first to do this, to be the first to do that. It's so inspiring. Like that new Supreme Judge in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin.
I know who you're talking about. I forgot her name.
Yeah, but she, to be able to be the first woman to do stuff like that is so inspiring. We have first men, Hmong men who've done this, Hmong men who've done that, woman. And to say that I can be independent, I don't need a Hmong man in my life, even though I think it's important to have a significant other. to support you. I mean, whether or not you want it or not, I mean, it doesn't really feel. If you want one, great. If you don't want one, okay. Or if you want a partner who was of the same sex gender, it's perfectly fine as well, in my perspective. Mm-hmm. But it's really just more of the idea of being you and doing it your way. And Hmong women thing right now is like, oh, I want to be the first to do that. It's so exciting sometimes. It's like, I would go through, my accomplishments and I'd be like, oh, was I the first Hmong woman? Was I the first Hmong woman? I had to do my research to figure it out.
Yeah. I will say you are the first with the Yang Scholarship, and that at least that's what I think. Am I right? Am I right? Because you do more research than I do.
I hope so. I
think you are.
I think so, yeah. I guess going off the Yang, I've had people who've asked me, like, who's the other Yang, thinking I have a Chinese boyfriend who's Yang. And in the Hmong culture, we can't date people of our same.
Yeah.
And I would tell them, me. And the thing is just me, though. I mean, it's the idea of, like, why do I need another person? It's like Johnson and Johnson. It was literally where I got it from, Johnson and Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But it's like, why would I need someone else to be Yang?
Yeah. Wow. See, that's what I mean when I say that everything you do have purpose to it. That's great. Because I was curious, what is Yang and Yang? What is it? But now that you mentioned, I love that. It's just you and yourself. That's great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have something else to add on to it before you move on? I don't want to just cut you short.
No, not that I know of.
Okay. All right. So I know we went a little bit over than an hour, and that's okay because it's been great. So for those of you who will probably join us later or will be watching later, and you have any questions for Ashley, there is always a way to contact either Ashley or me if you have any questions at all. So Ashley, if they should want to reach out to you, how should they contact you?
Send me your friend request. Message me on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I'm usually pretty good at responding. Emails, I do better, although I do understand, in this day and age, a lot of people don't do emails anymore. But if it's something urgent, send me an email. I respond to those much quicker.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, keep on going. Sorry, if I cut you short. Keep on going.
Oh, I can definitely just comment my email on the comment list of what you posted in the Hmong Village community.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's see. Do you have anything else to say to every single one of us before we close this interview?
I think the most important thing I want people to get out of this long interview, this long, very fun interview, is the idea of loving yourself, the idea of putting yourself first. I live by, each person has their own quote that they live by, and I live by, it's slipping my mind right now. Ask for forgiveness afterwards. So, to ask for forgiveness afterwards. To do what you want. If there's a lot of limitations. If you know that is what you want to do. So I guess the idea falls back on your social lives, your education. If you want to, and I've met students who want to take a semester off. It's okay, if you want to do that, then do it. What's stopping you? Social pressure and everything is definitely a big factor, but to really love yourself, and if it means that you need to take a break away from whatever you're doing, step away.
Yeah, I love that. I agree with you. There's a saying in the education field where they always say, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Because, as teachers, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of things we want to do. A lot of things we want to be able to do with our kids, and sometimes we're a little bit hesitant about it. But, we kind of live by that saying, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later. And so thank you for telling us that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to thank you so much, Ashley, for waking up so early to do this with us. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Yeah, thank you for sharing all the knowledge you have. I hope that, I'm really inspired by this, and I hope that other people will be inspired. I especially hope that our youth will, be inspired to follow their dreams, and at least they know that they have somebody there that they can reach out to, so that if they ever need someone, they at least have you. And so I have a lot of hope. I am really inspired by you, and I support you in everything that you do. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
No, thanks for having me.
Okay. All right. So then, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end the interview. Again, if you guys have any questions later, feel free to friend and ask Ashley. Okay. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Ashley. You have a beautiful day because I know it's daytime for you.
Thank you, Linda. Have a great dinner.
You too. Oh, no, you too. All right. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.